Hey everybody, I'm Rachel Malone. I'm Texas Director of Gun Owners of America, and I'm sitting here with candidate Bryan Slaton. Bryan is the Gun Owners Choice candidate for Texas State Rep in House District 2. That's in East Texas area. Which counties are in your district?
That'll be Hunt, Hopkins, and Van Zant counties.
Excellent. Well, I'm so happy to have you. Gun Owners of America has endorsed you because we believe we are very excited to work with you. I'm excited to have you in Austin, but first, of course, everybody has to vote and get you there. Thanks so much for joining me today to talk about gun rights. We were just discussing briefly some of the things that we're excited about working together, and constitutional carry is a big issue for me, and I know it is for you as well.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me, and I appreciate y'all's support. I mean, I love Gun Owners of America, but I've been a fan of Rachel Malone for a long time, so it's really cool to be here and have her helping.
Excellent,
yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, constitutional carry, I've talked to lots of people. They want constitutional carry, but before I talked to people, I wanted constitutional carry. I began to research, what was going on, why we couldn't at the time, open carry and all this, and we absolutely need it. And we have, in my opinion, two glowing examples why we need constitutional carry. One is what happened in Virginia. We have to advance our gun rights because there are those on the left that don't want to. They want to take them away, and you know how it is, right? They may say, oh, well, let's do this because it's reasonable, but they're never satisfied. The word I use, they're insatiable, right? They always want to pry away from our Second Amendment rights. Never okay, never content, only wanting more. And it's time we stand our ground on our Second Amendment rights, and we advance to constitutional carry. And then also with what's been going on in the news here with the riots in the street, no single mother, no family that has in lower income should have any barrier to wanting to purchase a weapon. They literally, and the way I feel about it, the only decision someone needs to make when they decide they want a gun for personal protection is what caliber.
Exactly.
That's it.
And when she can already legally purchase that firearm, there's no felony background or adjudicated criminal background that prevents her from purchasing it. She can purchase it. She should be able to carry that with her on her person for self-defense because that makes her safer.
Absolutely.
And I think it's interesting you brought up the fact that we have to move forward. Sometimes people ask me, well, are we gonna get to move forward, or are we only gonna be fighting against gun control? Only fighting against gun control is never the answer, because we will always get pushed further away from our rights. And once we lose those, it's almost impossible to gain those back again.
Absolutely. I mean, it's happened in history. We have that to look at, what's happened. I mean, in fact, our own Texas history, and that's what Santa Anna tried to do, tried to confiscate weapons. It didn't work out well for him, and hopefully it won't work out well for anyone else who would try.
Right, but that's our history. That's Texas' legacy, and I'm so excited that you share the passion for continuing to uphold our rights.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously constitutional carry and getting rid of that license requirement so that people can defend themselves. But also, in addition to that, Texas still has a lot of gun-free zones. We've eliminated some of them. There are still some more to go. But we were talking earlier, and you actually have some personal experience dealing with gun-free zone issues.
Yes. So I was in the ministry for about 13 years. And, of course, one of the big topics, because you will find some pretty liberal people on staff at a church.
Sure.
It's concealed carry, right? CHL back in the day, that was a big deal, and had to talk about who can and who's allowed to, and who has to give them permission, as though it's not a God-given right to protect yourself. And I worked at one church down in Corpus. It's actually technically in Robstown, but everybody knows it as Corpus down there. From 2002, 2006, and oh my goodness, you would not want to go into that church. I mean,
if you had bad intentions.
If you had bad intentions, yeah, because between the church members that would have taken care of you, the pastor would have. And of course, with church history, there was churches in the Old West that everyone took their gun. Everybody had their gun. Pastors preached with a pistol up on the pulpit because people would come in during the offering and rob a church and things like that. And it's crazy, but yes, I dealt with it. When churches have been choosing how they're going to protect themselves for a very long time. It's nothing new.
Right, exactly. I think that when licensed carry was first passed in 1995, churches were a gun-free zone, and that was taken away. I believe the very next session. So it's been over 20 years that there's been some form of allowing churches to carry. But the important thing is it's their own decision, and I love
That's
the
right.
fact that you were part of making that decision. That yes, of course,
Yeah.
people here at our church need to be able to defend themselves. They are their own first responders.
Absolutely, their choice. You don't want to, you don't have to.
Right.
You make your own choice whenever the bad time comes. You know, whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's a personal choice.
Mhm.
And you shouldn't have to jump through those hoops
No.
to be able to.
Yes, and you shouldn't have to get permission from the pastor or from whoever. It's not their choice. Your rights to defend yourself. Your desire to go home and be home with your family and be breathing the next day. That's not up to them. It should be up to you.
Exactly.
And in my favorite story of a
Yes.
pastor, they asked him, they said, hey, why do you carry a gun? You've probably heard that. Why do you carry a gun? Aren't you ready to die? And the pastor said, well, hey, yeah, I'm not afraid to die, but, you know, it may be the other guy's time. And that was a long time ago, traveling pastor on horseback. And people have to be able to defend themselves if they choose. That's the big thing. If they choose, none of us can, because a few people chose for us. And that's frustrating to me, because no part of that seems Texan and speaks, you know, of being American, with other people making decisions for you that infringe on your rights, and God-given rights at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean the legacy of Texas, and I think the spirit of Texas, that people think of it as being this amazing pro-gun place where everybody's got a gun. Unfortunately, it really isn't among the most pro-gun, especially if you look at carry laws.
Mm-hmm.
And even right here in Texas, even with a Republican-controlled legislature, we have still been fighting against gun control while trying to advance our gun rights. What are you most worried about as far as gun control in the next legislative session?
Well, I'm of course worried about them doing anything to find a way to make another group of people, carve off another group of people that can't have a weapon when they want to have it. Whether that's a gun-free zone, which are terrible, they don't work. They sound great, they look great maybe on paper, but criminals don't follow it. In fact, I mean, I don't know, but in all this COVID-19, you know, these people who were out that were a part of the protest that weren't doing the peaceful, they were doing the looting and rioting, they didn't follow any law. They didn't wear any mask, right? It was crazy, because we could have restaurant owners be arrested for having too many people at a table, but you have these people not following any law, and that just goes to show, if people have evil in their heart and they have intention to go do destruction, they're going to do it. So I'm worried about gun-free zones. Of course, I want to advance constitutional carry, but I'm also worried. I know that you know, we have an over-medicated society. I mean, I was a youth and family minister. I saw kids, you know, constantly, any problem, put them on medication. And I'm really worried. One thing they're going to try to do is, if you have antidepressant medication in your home, you can't have a gun. Well, that means if you got a lot of kids being raised by their grandparents these days, and other things, a lot of broken homes, different things like that, raised by grandparents. And so that means if the kid gets put on medication, then the grandparents can't have a gun, right? I'm worried about things like that.
Things like that don't on their face look like gun control, because it doesn't say, oh, we're coming to your house to take away your guns, but in effect it's gonna result in the oops factor for many of saying, oh, that sounded really great, it sounded like you were protecting us, but now that we see, you know, the government bill to protect us actually ends up disarming us, and that's dangerous. Those are very dangerous things.
and you then have, you know, in some of these situations you have a grandparent that's raising the kid. Of course, they didn't plan on that. They had a different plan for their retirement and whatever else, but they love their kids, they love their grandkids. For whatever reason, something happened, and they're now in charge. And then now do I exercise my Second Amendment right? Do the things I enjoy, hunting, shooting, do I do that? Or just owning, right? They're passing on family heirlooms. What do I do when I have these and I have this kid? Who's going to raise this kid? Right. And it puts them in a terrible position. So I'm worried about little sneaky things. They've kind of, people have talked about that.
Sure.
But I call that as a kind of sneaky thing, because like what you said, it's this, oh, wonderful, let's make sure it's safe for the kid.
Right.
Anyway, so I'm worried about any sneaky thing like that. I call that sneaky.
Oh, it is. And I faced that so much last session. I'm sure we're going to face a lot of them again. I mean, it seems like every time we defeat one thing, they bring it up in another sneaky way. You know, they brought up red flag laws, and we fought hard against them. Well, they came up with it named something else, but the same type of thing. So I know there's always going to be gun control to fight against, and I'm excited to have you staunchly advocating for gun owners' rights and digging in and doing the research to find those sneaky attempts at disarming us.
Absolutely. I mean, without the Second Amendment, what's going to help us defend the others? You know.
Exactly.
And with what we saw in Virginia, and what recently has been going on in the news media. There's,
Sure.
I mean, I have friends that own gun stores, believe it or not, and they've had people that are outright liberals coming in, buying their first guns. People are worried for their safety, and they didn't turn to, hey, could you pass more gun laws? These people
Right.
went to the store and bought a weapon for their home to protect their. They made that choice.
And I think right now, more than ever, gun rights and arming yourself for protection, I think that's one thing that we should all be able to unite around, no matter if everybody else's beliefs might be labeled conservative or liberal or in any other box you might want to find. That should be the thing that we all sit around. We say, you know what, we want to protect ourselves. We realize that we have to be our own first responders. Even if I want to call 911, they can't be there right now.
Especially if they disband the police department. Who's going to show up then? It already takes some minutes to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that just solidifies that we do have to be prepared to defend ourselves, and gun rights should be the thing that unites us.
Absolutely.
Well,
And it's easy because we have real life, it's actual fear. Through me talking to voters, there are more people afraid of their home in a riot and looting situation than the coronavirus. And they're out in the country. And I would still say, both are pretty small. No, there hadn't been any violent protests out in the country, right? But they're afraid of it. And but I can tell you right now, apples to apples, the fear of the coronavirus is not there compared to this rioting, looting. People are concerned and they want to protect themselves, and of course they're worried about their family, because a lot of people in our district, they retire and they leave Dallas, or whatever big city. In our case, they leave Dallas and they go to the country. They don't want to live there anymore, but their kids are there,
Right.
and their kids are having to live in the little bit crazy area, right, where bad things happen, crime's higher, and so they have genuine concerns, and that's a lot of times who gives them a gun. They don't buy it because they're too busy paying high property taxes, paying on the toll roads and all this other stuff. Their grandparents give them a gun. Hey, you need this for home protection.
Right, and that's really what gun rights is about. It's about protecting yourself, protecting yourself, your family, your home, being able to defend yourself, having that ability, so you don't have to choose between breaking the law or staying safe.
Yes.
Nobody should have to make that choice.
That's right.
Well, Bryan, I am so excited to be able to work with you on all of these items, and to have an advocate in the Capitol, elected to office, working for the people to protect our rights. Obviously, first you have a couple election hurdles to get through, so everybody's in the district, everybody in HD2 needs to be paying attention to those elections. You want to tell people a little bit about those dates coming up, and then how they can connect with you?
Great. So we got the runoff election against an 18-year incumbent. He's just, gotten squishy with his voting and not as strong as he should be on a lot of things, especially Second Amendment. And early voting is going to begin on the 29th of June. For 2 weeks, that'll take place. And then on July 14th, we have Election Day. So if anyone has time, you can go to bryanslaton.com and connect with us there. And maybe you want to make phone calls for us. You can't drive out to East Texas. Maybe it's just, be honest, maybe it's just too hot for you to get out. You can help make phone calls. You can find my Facebook, Bryan Slaton on Facebook, and you can connect with us there. And we can find a way to plug you in, whether it's knocking doors. And in fact, there will be a door knocking day on the 20th.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, in Greenville, we'll be there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We'll make sure we drop those links in the comments. And of course, if you're interested in connecting with Gun Owners of America here in Texas, you can go to gunowners.org/Texas. Join, sign up for our alerts so you can see when we will be doing block walks and legislative alerts as well. Again, that's gunowners.org/Texas. Or if you're on Facebook, you can make sure you join the GOA Texas Facebook group. Bryan, again, thank you so much for sitting down and having the discussion. Thanks for being willing to fight for our rights. And I look forward to working with you to restore gun freedoms in Texas.
Yes, ma'am. Let's do it.
All right.
Thank y'all.